If a woman's nipples are visible through a shirt, for example, because it's cold or the padding isn't enough, or if you're not wearing a bra, do men view it as sexual or revealing? To what extent is it considered more revealing than showing cleavage? If your partner's nipples are visible, do you care or feel jealous? How noticeable does it need to be considered revealing? For instance, if you're wearing a normal sports bra and shirt, but it got very cold, how visible would it need to be perceived this way? Story 1. It is one of life's little unexpected pleasures, like seeing a fox on your way to work or finding a forgotten $5 in your jacket pocket. Just a little something to brighten your day. Story 2. It's attractive, but I understand that they're not doing it for sexual attention, although some might be. It's just a clothing choice due to the cold or because they're in a comfortable environment. I look as discreetly as possible and keep moving. Story 3. My girlfriend is a smaller-breasted woman and generally prefers to go braless if she can manage it. I don't mind and feel it is her right to do so. Strangely, she has received more criticism from other women for doing this than unwanted attention from men. Her neighbor is being overly concerned about her sexually stimulating her teenage son by working braless in her own yard. It's ironic, as both my girlfriend and I know her son is gay. He's not out, especially to his religious parents, but both of us have daughters who attend school with him and are friends. Story 4. I guess, as a younger guy, I'd probably think, oh, nipples. As a slightly older young guy, I just think, nipples. This is kind of just a scan and notice thing. I probably wouldn't freak out over my partner poking out a bit, but I get the feeling it makes her uncomfortable not wearing a bra and stuff, so I don't really have a reliable marker for that. I'd probably get a little annoyed if people just ogled her chest, though. Story 5. I wouldn't regard nipping as revealing at all in itself. I may find it a bit exciting in a sexual way, but I generally try to ignore it because I'll feel like a creep if I'm fixating on someone's nipples in a non-sexual context. Story 6. Yes, it is. It's pretty hot, to be honest. More revealing than cleavage, as nipples aren't something that are generally revealed in public. So, when they're seen poking through, our eyes are drawn to them straight away, and once you see it, you can't not look. Story 7. If you are asking if we see them as women trying to be sexual, it would depend on context. If you are asking if we enjoy it, regardless of context, you bet. Story 8. I can't speak for others, but I find it to be sexual. Then again, I find everything that is revealing to be sexual. Tight pants, skirts, short skirts. Anytime I see a woman with an attractive physique, I have to force myself to look away. Story 9. It's a bodily function. It can be sexualized, sure, but that basically boils down to the context and the outfit itself. The girl wearing a baggy uniform at a fast food restaurant who just went into the freezer is not a big deal. The girl at the bar wearing a skin-tight club dress looking to cut loose is just showing off. It's not a bad thing, just accessorizing her outfit. Story 10. I don't care. I'm pretty sure it has no effect on me one way or the other. I can have pointy nipples too, and I'm a guy. Story 11. It's attractive, but that's it. It's just not that big of a deal. It shouldn't change how a woman can navigate the world, any more than showing a bit of cleavage does. If it does cause men to treat them differently, then that's on the guy. If you get jealous if your partner gets some attention from it, then you're an insecure moron. Story 12. Yes, nipples poking out is attractive. I don't think that should stop anyone from doing it. It's definitely something that I personally find revealing and attractive. Maybe not so much if they're in a bra and it's just cold. But if it's a t-shirt and I can see that she's not wearing a bra and her nipples are poking at the shirt, that's attractive. She's basically topless in my mind. Story 13. All depends on the context. When it happens to a coworker in the office, I don't consider it sexual and avoid looking so as not to embarrass them or make them uncomfortable. Story 14. I stopped wearing a normal bra about a year ago. If I wear a bra, it's because my nipples might become fully revealed, which I see as inappropriate, but often I don't wear one at all. I also work in a fully male-dominated workspace. By making it normal and not a big deal, when they bring it up, if ever, I just say it's just a nipple. However, outside of the space, like in grocery stores, I do get looks. As a woman, you can tell when someone is talking about you, which I find interesting. Story 15. I like it because it's a sign of confidence in themselves when women go without a bra. Story 16. Yes, we do, for a lot of people, even more than if you were to flash them. Intentional or not, the signal it sends to the brain is the same as being teased in some taboo way. Story 17. 200% of the time, when nipples are visible through a woman's shirt, my boyfriend will notice with the excitement of a 12-year-old. I think he prefers it more than seeing legs or cleavage. Extra points if the clothing is moving around. Story 18. The older I get, the less intrigued I am by the intricacies of someone's anatomy. I've seen many naked people for years. A woman's or a man's nipples visible through their shirt are as interesting as seeing someone's arm hair raise with goosebumps. I suppose it's vaguely interesting, but not something to stop and stare at. I'm also not interested in sweat, runny noses, bleeding wounds, shivering from the cold, or red faces on people exerting themselves. Story 19. It's very difficult not to look at erect nipples. It's definitely viewed as sexual and highly provocative by men. Story 20. It's very attractive to see a woman's nipples through a shirt. I don't think it's more revealing than cleavage, only because it isn't skin. But it may be more suggestive. I think jealousy would be in order if my partner was showing nipples in public. But I would also be personally intrigued by her. If she was giving attention to me while being exposed in that way, then I wouldn't mind that much. Probably the most suggestive and revealing look is under a plain light t-shirt. Very attractive. Story 21. It's telling how much of a non-issue nipples really should be, yet here we are with some people getting upset over them. On a biological level, everyone has them, and making a big deal out of them only feeds into unnecessary objectification. My partner goes braless for comfort, and honestly, if the first thing a person thinks of is sexuality rather than the human aspect of just living comfortably in one's own skin, then maybe it's time for a little introspection. Life's too short to police tiny bits of protruding human tissue. As a society, we should strive to reach a point where seeing nipples through a shirt is as normal and ignorable as seeing someone's elbows. Story 22. As a guy, it's fun to watch, but no reasonable person should judge someone negatively because they are cold. It's a non-voluntary body function. Story 23. Seeing nipples is sexual to men, yes, to most, I would guess. The extent depends on how much and the context. At the gym or park or whatever, it might be considered attractive. At work, it's not appropriate. Compared to cleavage, which is intentional, the shirt with cleavage didn't accidentally fly out of the closet onto your body. But again, context matters, like whether it's a date or work. Revealing is too subjective of a word and can mean many things to different people. Story 24. My wife is self-conscious about it. She is an executive for a big corporation and works in an office, so she wants to hide her nipples. I think she's overly conscious about it, but it's up to her. Personally, I think it's attractive, but I can understand why women might not want them showing all the time. Story 25. Yes, she is hard in my presence. Worship the very ground I walk on. Woman. Just kidding, I don't see anything sexual about it, I just assume she is cold. Story 26. It's more about a glance and the moment being over. I think cleavage is sexier and can be appropriate for a club, beach, bar, or Renaissance fair. However, it can also be seen as trashy at a school event, while shopping, or at a children's party. That would impact my reception. Story 27. It kind of depends on the context. A bra not doing the trick might be an issue with a super thin shirt where you can tell they are braless. Maybe. Story 28. Depends on the overall outfit. If the outfit is more scandalous, then I see it that way. If the outfit is casual and laid back, I think that she's just more comfortable that way. Do I enjoy it? Yes, I can't put it any other way. Story 29. If every woman would accept it, I would be normal. The majority of women try to hide it, so when there is one out there, there are a lot of side looks. For context, I swam competitively when I was younger. During early practices, every girl was cold. It wasn't considered strange, and guys didn't react. Story 30. I'm definitely going to look twice, probably 2 to 3 more times. But then that's it. It's attractive, but I see people who attract me all the time, and it's not like I can't continue with the rest of my day. It's attractive, but not so much that I can't think about anything else for the rest of the day. Story 31. It's like a random free Oreo cookie, a little treat that makes life worth living, and then you go about your day. Story 32. It's one of those things that I classify as non-sexual things that are a turn-on. It's not something I view as sexual on its own, but I definitely enjoy it when I see it. Story 33. Definitely notice, but if her entire outfit isn't attention-seeking or specifically complimenting her body, I figure, oh, she's just not wearing a bra, and carry on while appreciating witnessing the nipples. Story 34. I think anything that makes a guy aware that there are breasts under your clothes is going to be arousing to some degree, but how much probably depends on where your culture sits on the visible breast spectrum. If you're used to women in burqas, it's probably quite surprising, but if you're used to women being casually topless, maybe not as much. Story 35. If a woman wearing a bra walks by, I may or may not notice her breasts. If she's not wearing a bra and her nipples are visible, I will always notice. When that happens, it's mildly sexual to me about half the time, depending on whether the rest of her is attractive. Of that 50%, I'd say about 10% would be arousing. At the grocery store, guys are probably going to look, but most won't bother you. At a bar under the same circumstances, you'll get a lot of attention, but you no doubt already knew that. Story 36. Can we differentiate sexy from sexual? I would argue that we can and subconsciously do, but I'm curious what you all think. Story 37. I'd say it's on the same level as cleavage on a sexual scale, but most men see cleavage every day, so seeing this is a little more attention-grabbing since it's not as common. Story 38. Seeing an attractive woman with visible nipples is one of my guilty pleasures. I love it way more than cleavage. I tend to like breasts on the smaller side, so big, heaving cleavage doesn't really do it for me. Story 39. It is hot, and why would I care or be jealous? My partner is hot, and I am not insecure about my manhood or our relationship. Story 40. I'm a guy, of course, I like it when it happens, but I also understand that it is a natural reaction and is not always sex or arousal related. Story 41. It's not inherently sexual, just a basic physical response. That doesn't make it any less nice to see, however. Story 42. If you're my wife, nice. Otherwise, I notice and don't care because I'm not going to get anything more from it. Story 43. Seeing features through or beneath clothing can sometimes be pleasant in a sexual way because it suggests something hidden. Story 44. So what am I supposed to do? I'm honestly feeling a bit sick to my stomach that men might be thinking I'm trying to be deliberately sexual because of the way my body naturally exists, and that it's my fault for the way I am and my responsibility to mitigate it. That I've done something wrong simply for existing. My nipples stick out. It doesn't mean I'm aroused or anything remotely sexual. It's literally just the way they are. It shows with padded bras and sports bras. It shows with multiple layers. I almost always wear a shirt or shell with another layer on top. It shows through sweaters. I don't wear tight clothes, but I have larger breasts, and you can see the basic shape of them. Bras obviously shape things and push the nipple down, but they don't hide them entirely. So what's my solution? What do you want me to do? Should I wear a blazer or heavy jacket at all times? All seasons? Should I use a binder on my chest? Are there extra nipple pads I can purchase? Maybe you think I should have them surgically altered? And why do I have to go through extra pain or discomfort because my natural body is offensive or arousing to you? Isn't this how we go down the path to burqas? You seem to think this is intentional and sexual. I never felt ashamed of my breasts or my body until seeing how much men seem to think our very existence is sexual and designed to appeal to them. So again, why am I a horrible, disgusting person for a natural body function? And why is it on me to fix it instead of on men to realize that sometimes nipples stick out and it's not about them? Story 45. There was a time a few years back when women had fake nipple accessories to ensure they were always visible. Story 46. I don't know why people can be so insensitive that such an insignificant thing can be a big deal. I saw this fashion show with women on the runway with insulation tapes over their nipples and below. It means a 3-inch bit of tape can make the difference between nudity and being clothed. So just a strip of duct tape is more valuable than a person? Story 47. It looks revealing, to be honest, and I wouldn't mind if my partner has it, but in public, that would be a bit weird since others would want to look too. In private, yes. In public, no. Story 48. Can be. Not always. Depending on the situation. A while ago, this accidentally happened to a coworker. I overheard some of the other guys talking about it. I pulled her aside and told her, not about the guys talking, so she could wear a jacket for the rest of the day. She did not intend for that to happen. Some people may, but most likely not in an office environment. It was a good thing she didn't go to the floor below. Those same coworkers would even say things about their female boss. I guess it's a bit cold today. Story 49. We are simple creatures, we love beauty, and a nipple can be beautiful, so no, we don't feel jealous about it and would love to see one when we can. Story 50. Sexy if it seems intentional or if they just don't care. More awkward if it's an office setting or a funeral, and it doesn't seem intentional. Story 51. Sexy, but not revealing. It wouldn't incite jealousy, and it would have to be very obvious to be considered revealing, such as a white t-shirt with no bra or an ultra-tight elastic shirt with no bra. Story 52. I look at it the same as a crop top. If a stranger is wearing one, it's kind of creepy to stare at their stomach. If your partner is wearing one, it's a little exciting. Story 53. I don't notice it really, and if I do, I don't think much about it. I personally wouldn't say it's a revealing thing. Story 54. To be honest, my wife is more conscious of my nipples sticking out of my clothes than I am of hers. I know a lot of guys are excited or find it revealing when a woman's nipples poke through their shirt, but I never understood it. Don't get me wrong, I am very much a boob guy, but I don't get why the nub poking a t-shirt is exciting. I just assume the woman wants to be comfortable. Even if I do notice it, most of the time I just don't, though. Story 55. I suppose I would see it as revealing and it's a turn-on for me, but I wouldn't say it's sexual that it happens. I'm aware my kinks aren't others, so I wouldn't allow an uncontrollable response to dictate actions. Story 56. It's not as sexually revealing as a woman who is comfortable with her body and doesn't care. Is it pleasing to the eyes? Yes. But it's not taken as them being overly sexual. Story 57. Oh, I thought you meant like nipping on their ear. I try not to think too much about it because it's one of those things that just happens, but it is kind of hot, not gonna lie. Story 58. Very strange thoughts, but you are probably correct that most straight men view visible, erect nipples as sexually stimulating. Cleavage without nipples can be more appealing to men who prefer larger breasts. With small breasts, the nipples being erect may be more appealing than the cleavage if it is less impressive. However, for men who like small breasts, the cleavage would probably look great on its own. I prefer small breasts. Story 59. Even better for me is when you can see a piercing through the material as well, one of life's little bonuses. Story 60. I think men are hardwired to go to a sexual place when there's some nipping going on. It's almost automatic, and even then, when we rationalize that, yes, it's a bit chilly and she forgot her coat, we still think, clearly, she's really into me kind of stuff. Sorry. Story 61. It's like when clothing fits too tightly, it doesn't look appealing most of the time, but you are observing a part of the body related to sexuality. It feels both sexual and awkward. It's similar to a man wearing very tight shorts, where you can see his anatomy pressed against the fabric. Story 62. Depends greatly on the person presenting the display. Just that one thing can be very unattractive on the wrong person or body. Story 63. Very much depends on the woman and situation. If you're someone who supports the free the nipple movement, no, not at all. If you aren't, and you've chosen not to wear a bra in a situation where we're alone together, not jumping to any conclusions, but it seems a bit flirty. Story 64. Not really. I see it and my brain just goes, oh, that's right, breasts. But I don't think much more than that. It's not hard for nipples to show in shirts. Personally, as a man who works out and therefore has a big chest, I hate when a great shirt makes my nipples look like they're gonna poke a hole. Story 65. As a woman who has gone braless for the last 5 years, people seeing me for the first time constantly notice. The only people who ever make comments about me not wearing a bra are women and men who think it will improve their chances with me by casually bringing it up in conversation, as if I am not aware that I'm not wearing a bra. Story 66. Maybe it's just me, but you can see my nipples whether it's cold or not. I don't understand the idea that they wouldn't be visible unless it's cold. The truth is, I have scoliosis and bras hurt my back. I end up wearing baggy clothes to hide it, and I hate that I'm not enjoying myself because I'm afraid of being judged for not wearing a bra that I really can't wear. I'm not particularly chesty, so I'm not sure why I'm more self-conscious than someone who is more exposed. But I feel like society still sees it as taboo. Story 67. Why do you need to know so much detail? Nipples can be nice to see through a t-shirt. Yes, that's the end of it. Story 68. I had a classmate that I wasn't feeling very interested in until an early autumn lesson, and I became a lot more interested in her after that. This was almost 30 years ago, and I can still see her in that moment in my mind's eye. We ended up dating and eventually living together for a few years, but it didn't work out. Story 69. I think nipples are sexy even if it's only an imprint. Most women would also notice other women's nipples showing an outline, as most are conscious about how much they reveal both for security reasons or to feel sexy if that's the vibe they want to signal to a particular audience. I'm sure they would not welcome stares, but an acknowledging glance is probably seen as benign, just taking in her total outfit. If her curves are sexy, it's like a cherry on the sundae, and yes, it's as sexy as cleavage, or shapely legs, or an extra firm backside from narrow hips. Story 70. My wife wears pasties when she is aware there is a chance of that happening. I really hate them. I wish she wouldn't. Story 71. This is one of my biggest turn-ons. I would never stare or do anything to make the lady uncomfortable. They shouldn't have to worry about being sexualized because of the way their clothes fit or the way their body is shaped. I would never shame anyone for it, and if I were in a relationship, I would never have an issue with it. I'd love for her to not wear a bra because I love the way it looks, and I don't think anyone should have to wear one if they don't want to. Story 72. It happens to a lot of women. As far as I know, it is a natural response to emotion or weather conditions, and there isn't much you can do to stop them from being seen, short of wearing a metal bra. There is a small chance it's deliberate. Either way, I'm not going to make a big deal of it. Showing a lot of cleavage falls into a similar category. I wouldn't expect busty women to wear turtleneck tops year-round. Story 73. I prefer mushroom outline in pants. However, I've noticed that men often remark on this, which is immature. It's similar to pointing out the mushroom outline, which is also immature. These are normal bodily reactions, and if you point this out, you resemble a 14-year-old boy. Story 74. I'm always a little surprised, but my sister went without a bra saying it wasn't her responsibility to shield people from seeing her natural body. It was not an attraction or sexual thing at all, so I just assume it's for comfort or something and try to keep my eyes off them. Story 75. Most humans have nipples and sometimes they become noticeable. It is what it is. Do I view it as revealing or sexual? No. Am I amused by it? Maybe a little. I like breasts as much as the next person, but it's not like I'm going to become excited by it. If my partner is cold, I'll offer my jacket or something to warm her up. Do I care if other men notice her nipples showing? No, I don't care. If someone finds that exciting, more power to them. She's still with me tonight. Story 76. I mean, it's more sexual than nothing, obviously, but I wouldn't say it's trashy or inappropriate. Heck, on cold days you can see my nipples through my shirt sometimes. Story 77. A lot of men will lie and tell you that it's cool, but no. Most men will start picturing her naked, even if they look like they don't care. Story 78. I don't think it's inherently sexual. It is revealing in the most literal sense in that it reveals the size of the nipple and where it is. But it's not sexual. It's just a body part. That being said, it's a body part that turns me on. Story 79. The first time I witnessed nipping, I was a 12-year-old paperboy collecting dues, and one of the neighborhood moms was wearing something quite revealing. I will say, on that day, I definitely saw it as sexual. Story 80. Hello. This is similar to a man getting an erection in public. If everyone can see it, won't women feel like he's a creep? When men are aroused or it's cold, they may experience erections. I think it's immodest to be braless. You are aware that it is attractive, and if you weren't before, it's probably obvious now. Protect yourself. Women are generally weaker than men, and if someone gropes you, say, on your way out of the grocery store, most women won't be able to react, even with training or a self-defense certificate. You should make your decision based on this. You don't need to go to extremes to cover it, but going around braless will attract sexual attention, which some women do enjoy. In a similar way, just as it is unpleasant for men to walk around with visible erections, it is the same for women when they do the same with their nipples. Story 81. Listen, individuals with larger breasts may choose to show cleavage, while minimal coverage might be more appropriate for those with smaller breasts. Casual exposure of cleavage or minimal coverage shouldn't be considered revealing. It's natural to have a reaction to either, but wearing clothes to highlight these features is a personal choice. Story 82. Depends. Generation X and baby boomers, yes, probably. I think a lot of people in their early 30s and younger have less of a reaction to it. Story 83. I see it as a confidence thing. My assumption is that women generally know which of their clothing shows their nipples and which doesn't, so if I see it, I see a confident woman. I also think it is attractive, but not necessarily sexual. It is distracting. Story 84. It is definitely revealing, and although I do my best not to stare, my eyes are drawn to it and want to see them. I have a friend who doesn't wear bras and has a nipple piercing. I'm not sexually attracted to her. Not because she's unattractive. She's just not my style. Every time I see her, I get a little excited for the visual treat. I'm team no bra, and I treat women with respect, but I can't shake the love for nipples. Fun fact, a few of my female friends admitted to feeling the same way, sometimes also towards men, although less frequently. Story 85. I think there are males and females who view it as sexual, revealing, and even inappropriate. I'm not in that camp. Do I notice? Of course, just like with female cleavage, I notice, but I don't ogle. It's a body reaction for some females. My wife can appear exposed in a thin bra if the shirt is also thin. Her being looked at because of this doesn't bother me because we have a good relationship. I trust her, and I'm the one that gets to be close to her. If she wants to go without a bra, I'm not going to stop her, just as she does not stop me from going without underwear if I want. Story 86. Sexually appealing? Yes. Unless I know the person intimately, like a partner or similar, I won't say anything or do anything to show my arousal, as it isn't something that may be intentional. Story 87. Seeing this is a true gift. And I assume the woman didn't do it on purpose, so I don't think she's immoral or anything. Story 88. It's one of those plausible deniability things. Be sexual and garner sexual responses, but deny you're doing it to refuse responsibility for the natural reaction they say they do not want. Story 89. It's neither revealing nor sexual. Nipples are a part of the body, and most of the time, if you can see them, it's just an accident of the fabric or being cold. That said, I'm a big fan of nipples and get a little thrill of excitement seeing them, but that says more about me than about the person inadvertently showing them. Story 90. It will draw attention. Sometimes it can be hot, other times it's just awkward. A bit like cleavage, really. Difficult not to look sometimes. Story 91. It's definitely revealing, and if I'm attracted to them, I actively need to manage those thoughts. Story 92. It is only sexual if it is done purposely, in my opinion. You cannot fault a woman for what God gave her, though. That is something to think about. On the other hand, you have to know your surroundings. You know what is inappropriate and what is not. Dress accordingly. Story 93. It's inherently sexual as opposed to a man's, so yes, I'd feel jealous and it's revealing. It's similar to a man's situation when something is clearly visible. I'd feel that's inappropriate and would fix my pants or wear baggier ones. Story 94. Well, I would like to ask a counter question. How do women feel when guys wear shorts or pajamas that show the outline of their penis in public? What would women feel when their partner does it? Considering that men can have a semi-erection easily while in loose clothing, which makes it even more revealing. Story 95. I am not a 12-year-old who just started puberty, and I don't see it as sexual or revealing. Story 96. I prefer cleavage because nipples poking through cloth always remind me of this type of stuff. Story 97. I feel like this question goes a few ways. Is it a tool that a woman who desires to be seen sexually could use? Yes. Might it catch my eye? Yes. Do I assume that kind of intent and permission to leer every time I see a nipple-shaped protrusion in a woman's top? No. Story 98. Depends. Is it cold, or are they working out? It's normal and doesn't make me feel sexual about it. My nipples get hard as a man all the time. All I have to do is go swimming and I could cut glass with them. It's a normal bodily function. If it's while we are getting into intimate moments, or she is being flirted with really hard by someone she is clearly interested in, then yes, I get sexual vibes. Nipples are interesting because they respond in the same way to different kinds of stimuli, and both men and women have them. Actually, erections do the same thing. You can get aroused out of nowhere, and it could be completely unrelated to being sexually excited. But I'm always sexually excited, so I always attribute that to just being in that state. It's a curse, not a blessing. Nipples aren't like that. Story 99. Revealing? Not really. Sexual? Maybe still not the right word. It's just sexy as hell. Unless the individual is a disgusting person, then it's gross. So maybe sexual is the right word. Something like that, anyway. Story 100. It's all a turn-on. Attractive women are appealing. There's nothing you can do that won't at least make me interested. Story 101. Hell yeah, it's hot. If it's noticeable, it seems more revealing than cleavage, unless there's a lot of cleavage. If it's visible at all, it's revealing. Most of us are looking closely. Story 102. To be honest, I feel like it's more attractive than a woman wearing a revealing outfit, just because I really don't know if it's intentional or not. Story 103. I would love for women to have the freedom not to wear a bra daily, but unfortunately, it is something that some find arousing. I believe this is largely social. In Western culture, it is viewed as a private part of the body. Therefore, its appearance is often inferred to be sexual. At least, that's what I understand about it. Story 104. Do women, other than my wife, find it sexually appealing on men? So, I've been missing out. My nipples are like glass cutters all the time and visibly noticeable most of the time. Story 105. It seems like you're trying to shame her for something she cannot control. You determine what is sexual for you, but you shouldn't impose that on another person. Next, you'll want her to wear a burqa. Story 106. For me, in most cases, no. As you state, there can be many reasons for nipples protruding through clothes, such as arousal, cold, thin clothing, stress, or other factors. Context matters in these situations. If I see someone at the gym with stiff nipples, I assume it's related to working out. If I see someone outside, I assume the temperature is the cause. For comparison, I have very soft nipples, which are almost never stiff or hard, unless I'm at the gym, then they're suddenly very noticeable. Either way, it's not for me to comment on the reasons, whatever I might think is the cause. Story 107. For women, it's a completely normal thing you can't really get jealous or mad about, as they can't help it sometimes. I notice it more than cleavage because we're more used to seeing it. Story 108. Sexual or revealing? Yes, men might experience it that way regardless of the woman's intentions. Is it more revealing than showing cleavage? I would say yes. In my opinion, it's a bit more stimulating to the male imagination than just cleavage. If my partner were to be obviously exposed in public, she never is, I would ask her about it. If her intent is clearly not to attract attention, then I wouldn't mind. It might be contextual, but I don't think I would be jealous by default. How obvious does it need to be? If you can easily see it from more than a meter away without squinting, then it's probably too obvious in my opinion. All that being said, it's your body, your choices. Story 109. Yes, but only a tiny bit. Most of the time, it's clearly unintentional. Sometimes it seems like women dress in minimal clothing, knowing full well their nipples will be on display to get attention. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.